Greetings family, peace and love to you and yours. This is Guru and thanks for visiting my channel. Family, this video is about a black judge who says, I won't recuse myself from white cop's murder trial. You see, lawyers for a police officer on trial for the murder of another unarmed black man, they're trying to oust a black Alabama judge from presiding over the case. The murder trial for a Montgomery, Alabama cop who shot and killed a black man was delayed on Friday after the officer's lawyers moved to oust the case's black judge on the grounds that he had once been wrongfully detained by police. Now, family, you know as well as I have, we've seen it with the O.J. Simpson trial and so many other high-profile cases where the police, the lawyers, and the prosecutors try to move the venue of high-profile cases. What they do is they try to move these cases out of cities where you have a high probability of getting black people or other people of color on a jury trial. Instead, they try to move the venue to white suburbs and white counties where they are guaranteed to get a predominantly white jury, and that's how they railroad black men and women constantly in this so-called justice system. But I'm gonna stay on point with this article, so let's go to the story itself. You see, Montgomery police officer Aaron Smith is accused of beating, tasing, and fatally shooting a 58-year-old Gregory Gunn in February 2016. But the case, which prompted local and national uproar, has been slow on its way to trial, with 3 judges recusing themselves from the case. Circuit Court Judge Greg Griffin, pictured here, the 4th judge assigned to the case, says he's there to stay. But since May, Smith's legal team has been trying to force Griffin's recusal, citing an April Facebook post he wrote about police mistaking him for another black man. Well, as we know, the shenanigans of white people, and especially when it deals with high-profile racialized cases, white people in these cases try everything in their power to make sure that black people are not involved with anything to do with the prosecuting or the defending of black people. What they do is they try to move venues, they try to recuse judges, and they try to control the whole narrative of our cases. Forget the whole point of the right to a jury of your peers. White people, they don't understand that. They think that black people's peers mean nothing but white people on the jury trial. All of our jury trials should be appealed based on that racist concept. It is a racist concept. We are not in court being tried by juries of our peers. That's not happening. We are being tried by predominantly white jurors who 8 times out of 10 are likely racist or have bias within their heart, and that's why we have so many jury trials that go away with non-convictions, especially of police officers who kill unarmed black men, women, children, and our senior citizens. It is because of these shenanigans that white supremacists pull within the justice system. Let it be known, we're fully aware of these issues. Well, Smith's legal team says the Facebook post, which Griffin wrote before he was assigned to the case, was improper and disqualifying. Griffin says the defense is trying to use his race to kick him off the bench. You see, Gunn was walking home from a card game at the end of his late night shift at a Montgomery grocery store on February 25th, 2016, when he crossed paths with Smith, a white, 23-year-old police officer. What's new? The exact events of the encounter remain unclear. That's always the case. You see, Smith's body camera and dashboard camera were turned off. And this is why this black judge should remain on this case and why this police officer should be convicted. All police officers these days should be convicted when their dash cam camera or their body cam is turned off. They should be held accountable. This white officer is guilty of that. Like I said, the exact events of the encounter remain unclear because of the body camera and the dash camera being turned off. Montgomery police claim Smith stopped Gunn for an impromptu interview about nearby robberies. Well, of course, he was racial profiling. That's what it sounds like. Smith claimed Gunn picked up a paint roller and swung it at him, although Gunn's fingerprints were not found on the roller when it was recovered as evidence. Do you hear that? Gunn's fingerprints weren't even on the paint roller, but yet this white so-called police officer pictured here, he claims that the black man picked up the paint roller and swung it at him. But there's no fingerprints to prove it. Lo and behold. A report by Alabama State Bureau of Investigation found that Smith beat Gunn with his police baton, tased him, and fired 7 shots at him. 5 of those bullets struck Gunn, killing him outside a neighbor's home. So let's get this straight. This white man, if that's what you want to call him, killed an unarmed black man because he swung a paint roller at him. Allegedly. You know, the paint roller that doesn't even have his fingerprints on it. And then the lawyers for the police officer, for this scum, they want to recuse the black judge. Maybe you guys should be trying to find out whether your client, this police officer, is really telling the truth. That's what these lawyers really should be doing, instead of worrying about a judge just because he was stopped by the police. As a matter of fact, that lame excuse means that this judge should never preside over any other cases for the rest of his life if white people are going to use that lame ass excuse. Because that's all it is. Smith's lawyer, former police officer Mickey McDermott, blamed social media for the outrage over Gunn's death. He says because, quote, because of this social media culture that we're living in, this officer was thrown under the bus, McDermott told The Guardian several days after Gunn's death. Quote, I assure you, we're going to stop that bus. Well, I tell you what, McDermott, the bus should roll this racist piece of garbage of a white officer. The bus should roll his butt over for not having his body cam on, for not having his dash cam in his car on, for not having proof of what he's saying. The bus should roll over his ass. Plain and simple. But I digress. Well, now McDermott and his legal team are trying to use Griffin's social media to boot him from the case. In April 2016, Griffin posted a picture of himself holding a stick while on a walk in his Montgomery neighborhood. He had just been detained by police who were looking for a different man who had been reported carrying a crowbar. Griffin wrote that he showed the officers his circuit court badge and that, quote, the officers were courteous. However, it was aggravating to be detained when the only thing I was guilty of was being a black man walking down the street in his neighborhood with a stick in his hand, unquote. In a follow-up several days later, Griffin posted a picture of himself shaking hands with Montgomery's police chief. Quote, "We discussed the incident that occurred on April 13th. We are okay," unquote. But despite the apparently amicable ending, the incident was far from disappearing. Over the next year, Alabama Supreme Court tried 3 times to find a judge to preside over Smith's murder trial. All 3 judges recused themselves, 2 without stating their reasons, and a third stepping down from the case after he learned that his son worked for a law firm representing Smith against a civil suit by Gunn's family. So in April 2017, Griffin was tapped to oversee the case. It would not take long for Smith's legal team to find Griffin's year-old post about his encounter with Montgomery police, and then they tried to use it against him to get him removed from this racialized case. Of course, they do this so that they could get a white judge because they feel in their racist ideology, little itty-bitty brain cell of a mind, that they believe that they'll get justice when a white face is behind the robe. But in fact, this black man, this unarmed dead black man, deserves to have this black judge presiding over his case. Family, what do you think? Again, this is just nothing but shenanigans from white supremacists trying to run and rule the justice system as they always have been, railroading black people or giving us no justice whatsoever. That's all this is about. That's all it's ever been about. It's always about race, even when they tried to deny it in your face. No, it is about race. So in May 16 filing, Smith's legal team accused Griffin of being unfit to oversee the case based on his Facebook posts. You see, that's another reason why you have to be careful what you post on social media. But Griffin was so enraged by this incident that he wrote several comments pertaining to the same on a social media site proclaiming his disgust with the Montgomery Police Department due to its alleged unfair and unjust stop of Your Honor while simply walking through his own neighborhood, unquote. The filing claimed describing Griffin's encounter as eerily similar to the events surrounding Gunn's death. You see, this is where a black judge would understand. Unfortunately, they are well aware of that fact. Griffin declined to recuse himself, stating that the charges against Smith were unrelated to the search Montgomery officers performed on him the previous year. Quote, "This is not a stop and search case," Griffin told Smith's lawyer. Ooh, the Montgomery Advisor reported in May. This is a murder case. He went on to argue that Smith's lawyers were potentially asking him to recuse himself from a wide swath of cases based on race. He says, and I quote, "You brought race in here," Griffin said. "I'm a black judge. I can take this black robe off, but I can't take off this black skin. I live in West Montgomery. I live in the hood. Should I recuse myself from every criminal case that has happened on the West Side? Question mark. Very good question. Griffin remained on the case, which is scheduled to go to trial in October. But in a Friday move, Alabama's Supreme Court finally agreed to consider Smith's lawyer's move to unseat Griffin. Can you believe this, family? 8 of the court's 9 justices ruled to temporarily halt the trial for up to 21 days while they accept briefs from Griffin and Smith on whether Griffin should be allowed to oversee the case. Hours after the court's ruling, Griffin went back on Facebook, this time posting a video of Dr. Martin Luther King. The caption, a King quote, reads, "Like Griffin's official statement in a case stalled by deep scrutiny into Griffin's Facebook activity. Quote, "Don't allow anybody to make you feel like you are nobody," unquote, the caption read. Very good quote. I really like this Judge Griffin. He is a man of integrity. I believe that he stands for justice. And again, we get a chance to see how white supremacy works, especially in the Trump administration. It's filthy disgusting. It's nothing to do with justice when they do things like this. I rest my case. I'm out.